Sophie. I work for a company called Judgement Index. The Judgement Index is an assessment, and we work with care companies looking at values-based behaviours. And a huge part of what we do is looking at well-being of staff as well, which I'm going to share a little bit of our research a bit later on. I also host a podcast. Is everybody familiar with what a podcast is? Anybody not familiar? Don't be shy. I always speak to people that don't know what a podcast is. But a podcast is a bit like a radio show, except you can listen to it whenever you want. And this is the podcast here. It's called The Road to Outstanding. It's full of interviews with different people that work within care, full of best practice, and I'm going to reference a few of those episodes today. But if you want a hand learning how to listen, then come and grab me afterwards. And actually, a few people who I've interviewed are in here today, so some mini celebs for you. I really appreciate that you have taken time out of your day today to come and sit and listen to this talk. So for me, I want to give you actionable advice that you can go away, strategies that you can implement into your business that are going to cost you zero or very, very little. So today, what I'm going to share with you, we're going to talk about well-being, we're going to talk about what drives well-being, and then I'm going to share with you my 5 top tips, and hopefully there'll be things that you haven't already heard or thought about. So stay with me, and I'll also be sharing with you a free well-being policy template that you can go away and use within your company. So you can get all of that afterwards. Let's get started. So I'm afraid I'm going to kick this off with a few depressing stats. And this is information that has come from the research done by NACAS. If anybody's familiar with them, they do have a stand here today. And they did a big piece of research on well-being. And they were looking at staff, and they were looking at staff retention. And this is some of the information that they found. This research is very fresh. It was literally done a couple of months ago. And it makes it's quite depressing, really, isn't it? And when they interviewed people working within care, some of the key things that they heard from people were that they didn't feel supported within their role. They felt like they were putting their own well-being at risk to look after their clients, their service users. They felt like they didn't get enough bereavement support, and obviously working in care, quite a lot of the time, it can affect you quite hard if you're looking after somebody for a long period of time and they die and they didn't feel like they were getting the support. Now, I know not every company's going to be like that, and I'm sure that a lot of you who are sat here today are going to say, no, we support our staff really well, and that's fantastic. This does not apply to everybody. But I think it's a bit of a wake-up to see some of these stats, especially people who intend to leave the care sector within the next 5 years, which is obviously quite crucial. So let's have a look at what well-being actually costs you as a business. Now, we know that staff turnover rates on average are about 30%, and actually, people who are unhappy within their job take an average of 15 extra sick days a year. So if you have staff that are taking more sick days because they're unhappy, how much is that costing your business? On top of the turnover, and Skills for Care say that it costs on average about £3,500 to replace a care worker. Now, even if your figure's less than that, if you add that up with sick pay, with the fact that you're going to be spending more on agency costs, and then the impact that it has on the culture within your entire team, then actually, well-being's quite important. If we can support the well-being of our staff, they're going to take less time off, they're going to stay for longer, they're going to provide better quality care for the people that they're looking after. So what I find is that well-being's become this little buzzword at the moment. I don't know if anybody's sort of heard or read anything about it recently. Yes, I'm seeing some smiles. And it's quite interesting because I did a talk at Health Plus Care where I talked about recruitment and retention, and about 3 minutes of my talk was about well-being. And everybody that spoke to me after the talk said, that bit that you said about well-being, and that just made me think that I need to do more on this. So that's obviously what we're gonna do today. Somebody said this to me at an event recently, and it really hit me hard in terms of what we spend as an industry. And I'm obviously there's a lot risk, compliance, looking after people, making sure that people are safe. But we spend an awful lot of money as an industry on risk assessments, on audits, on health and safety training. Of your budget, how much of that is going on to your staff in terms of their well-being? And I thought that was is anybody sort of proactively spending training budgets or anything like that on staff well-being? So it's something that's definitely worth thinking about, because across all industries, the two things which are the biggest risk in your organisation is people who are stressed and people's commutes. People who have worked really long hours and are then driving home tired. So people who are tired and people who are stressed, they are your biggest risk in your working environment right now. So let's have a look at what we can do to combat that. Does everyone agree with that? Does anybody have any thoughts? Okay, good, nodding heads, that's nice. So let's talk about what well-being is. Does anybody have a kind of sentence or anything that they would say to sum up what well-being is? We'll see how active we are as an audience. No? So well-being in general is described as people that are happy, healthy and comfortable. But what we're going to talk about is well-being at work. And there's actually 4 things that drive positive well-being at work. Bear in mind, I'm going to get you these slides afterwards. I see people scribbling things down. Let's talk about these 4 things now. This is based on some research done by a company called Great Place to Work. And they found the first thing that helped with well-being, that drove well-being in the working environment, was values-aligned behaviour. Values. What a buzzword. And it really, what that means is that the values of your staff, or the values of the person working for you, are aligned with what you're trying to achieve as a business. Now, who has company values? Has everybody got a set of company values? Probably on your website, probably on a wall somewhere. Now, this is my challenge for you, to go back to your office, go back to your home, go back and grab one member of your staff in the corridor and say, what are our values? Do you think they would give you the right answer? Thank you for your honesty. So that's part 1, is do your staff know what your values are? And part 2 is what does it mean to embody those values within your company? Now, if anybody here works for a larger organisation, you might find that your values have been dictated from the top, they've been dictated by a marketing team somewhere in head office. That doesn't mean you can't have your own cultural values within your own home. And if you want a bit more information on that, the email that you can get will have a link to an episode of the podcast that talks about how you can develop values-based behaviour, how you can develop a culture around your values. But this is a key thing, that the person working for you, their values are aligned with what you're trying to achieve as a business. The second one's teamwork. Do you think this is quite obvious? We all want to go to work and work with a nice team, don't we? Ultimately, we all want to go to work, feel like we're socially included, feel like we're part of a team, that we're all doing this together. And obviously that is a key driver for well-being. Anybody here got a home care service? Home care, domiciliary, and that can be harder, do you think? Because your team are on their own, they're out and about. One of my tips later will be really, really key for home care providers. But teamwork can sometimes be more difficult in that environment. Processes. This is about reducing the barriers that your staff have to do their job properly. So whether that's digital care planning, whether that's having things in place that basically reduce stress and frustration. Because isn't it the most annoying thing in the world when you're trying to do your job and you've got some basic admin to do and some things are going wrong, don't know what you're doing. So this is about getting your processes really slick so that they're not getting in the way of people being able to perform. Funny that processes can drive well-being. And then the final one is all about recognition, and I think this is something that we talk about a lot in care, because we can often be very quick to focus on the negative and we need to do more to focus on the positive. So recognising staff, building that in with your values, and recognising staff that are demonstrating your company values on a regular basis. And I'm going to give you some more tips on recognition as well shortly. So now we know what drives well-being. Who does a lot of this stuff already? Do you think you do a lot of these things? And that's the thing, is I think actually as care providers we are already doing things that will drive well-being within the organisation. But the key thing now, to separate yourself from any competition that you have, to really make yourself stand out, really make your staff feel valued, is to actually create and promote a well-being policy. Because who are your company values for? They tend to be for your clients. So actually, let's look at making a mission statement, well-being policy for our staff. The promise that we make to our staff, not just our clients. And as I mentioned, I have created a wellbeing policy template, so I've done some of the homework for you. There's still a bit for you to do that you can take away and use to create your own wellbeing policy with your staff, to really get them on board and get them understanding that you value them and you want them to stay with the company. So here's how to do it. It's about getting it down on paper. It's about using it as part of your recruitment drive to explain to any potential new staff that you have a wellbeing policy and you're supporting their wellbeing. It's about using it as part of your induction process, and it's about using it to drive throughout the organisation. And there's a few ideas here, but there's plenty more. When you get the email, there'll be a lot more in there as well. So, does anybody here have any way that they are measuring the well-being of their team right now? Yeah? What's any of these surveying? Yeah, so I'm seeing quite a lot of people now are putting surveys out to their teams, or perhaps you might be looking at things like your incidents and trying to trace that back and seeing if the causes of any incidents or accidents is down to a member of staff being under stress, or a member of staff that's tired. How many mistakes do we make when we're tired? Quite often. I mean, I know when I'm cooking, if I'm tired, that's when things go wrong. That's when I start burning myself, spilling hot water on me. That's a very basic way of looking at it. So there's a couple of different things. And there's also tools that you can use to measure well-being within your staff as well. Now, I'm not here to do a sales pitch, but what I would like to do is share some of our research with you. And as I mentioned, from a company called the Judgement Index, we measure people's values-based behaviours. And what I want to be really clear about is that behaviours and values-based behaviours and judgment are quite different from personality. So what you'll find is there's a lot of assessments that you can take, and you may have taken them yourselves, where they're looking at your personality, they're looking about whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, but that's not really measuring well-being. That's not measuring how you're likely to behave in an environment. But that's what we do, and there's some key things that we find, and I just want to share one really crucial piece with you. Have a little think if you've got any members of your team who might fall into this category. So we look at stress, work-related and personal, and we look at, and I know this is really small, so I'll read it to you. We look at people's energy, whether they're burnt out, whether they've got no energy to deal with the difficult scenarios that you have to deal with on a daily basis. And what we found through our research is that people who have a lack of energy, people who are under a large amount of stress, it affects some real key areas. And those areas that it affects is their intuition. So we find in the care sector, people are more intuitive than the average population. Because quite often we're looking after people who can't communicate as effectively, so we've had to learn and got better, got more intuitive. But when we're under stress, when we're burnt out, that intuition can quite often fall off the table. So when you've got people that aren't noticing things about your clients, that is a risk for you. Another thing that we find, problem-solving ability can also get really affected when somebody's under stress or pressure. And another one is being able to think laterally, being able to think outside the box, being able to see over the horizon, being able to weigh up implications and consequences and benefits of what they're doing. And that's just a small part of what we do. But if you are thinking about the well-being of your team, if you want to know who that 20% is, and you might already know who your 20% is, who are probably a bit of a risk for you right now, then come and have a chat with us afterwards and we can talk about how we can measure that within your team. I'll show you a team report. Scares a lot of people when they see their team on a report like that. But let's move on and let's start to have a look at some simple strategies to support well-being. This is what you're here for, and I've got plenty of time, so that's good. So I'm going to start with quite an obvious one. This is potentially probably the first thing that you'll have thought about, and then we're going to start and get a bit more unusual and see if I can give you some ideas that you've not already thought of. But my first tip to support your staff well-being is to create a dedicated space for your staff. Now I go and see a lot of care homes and there's no staff room. Is anybody here got no staff room? So yeah, okay, thank you for being honest. Yeah, no place for staff to go on their break and actually switch off from work. And I find that sometimes the only place they can go is a smoking shed, which if you don't smoke, it's not that great really. It's not doing much for your well-being. So create a space where your staff can go and literally be able to switch off from work when they're on a break. Do more than that. Get some books in there, have a little community library, put posters on the wall, make that where the recognition is. And that can really provide a lot to be able to switch off. And I'm sure some of us in here have got offices we can go into and shut the door, but that's not always the case. So quite a simple one there. Let's go into another one. So this next strategy is called the Order of the Elephant. This was created by a Danish company. They're not a care provider, and they decided they wanted a way to have recognition within the company. So what they did was they bought a cuddly elephant, it's about this big, and they decided that any member of staff could give that elephant to any other member of staff as a reward for doing something exemplary. And what that meant was, I decide that Helen here has done something fantastic today and I give her the elephant. It doesn't have to be an elephant, you can make it a hat if you want. It might not be practical to walk around a care board, with an elephant under your arm, but what it meant was that other members of the team would stop by and go, "Oh Helen, you've got the elephant, what did you do?" And then Helen would say, "Oh well, I did this and so gave me the elephant." And then it's Helen's duty to then pass it on, and what it's doing is encouraging recognition, and it's encouraging sharing, and it's encouraging positive stories as well. And what I really, really liked about this is that it wasn't coming from the top, it was coming from within the team. So it's actually promoting a positive culture within the team. And I think that was just a fantastic idea. And I mean, how much is a stuffed elephant going to cost you? Or a hat, maybe you'd have a silly hat that somebody wears, and then that means that they have done something that deserves a bit of recognition, and it's a really good way to drive that feel good, drive that well-being throughout the company. So how's that? Is that achievable? Is that something you can take back and go and do? Brilliant. Okay. I'm going to cause a bit of controversy here. So I've got to cause a bit of controversy. Who uses WhatsApp?
Okay, so we lost a bit of the video here just as the video ran out and had to be replaced. So I'm just jumping in to highlight the next couple of points. Number 3, which I just started to say who uses WhatsApp, and say that I was going to be a bit controversial and say that you should be thinking about replacing WhatsApp with an app called Slack, which is essentially very, very similar to WhatsApp. But my reason behind this is because I use WhatsApp to communicate with my family, with my friends. It's very much a social communication tool for me. So if I had a group WhatsApp for work and I started to get work messages through in the evening when I'm perhaps messaging friends, it's then interrupting my well-being really, because it's sort of giving you that warning sign of work's trying to get in touch with you. So what I recommend, and I think it's great that anybody has started to use something like WhatsApp and encourage communication within the team, but I recommend using a completely different app. And the reason why I like Slack is because it's actually built and designed for work teams. It's free. You can still have groups like you would with WhatsApp, but what it also allows you to do is have something called threads. threads. And you can see the example on the screen here, where for my team, we've got a thread for training. We've got a thread for shifts. So if somebody wanted to swap a shift, for example, that's where they would put information or questions around that. It's really easy to turn off notifications, silence them, so that if you're outside of work, you could just snooze the app. You don't need to look at it if you're on holiday, etc. And it's a really good way of communicating with the team. So if you're using WhatsApp already, then that's great, but consider moving to something like Slack. And I think that everybody would really get on board with that as well. The next point, which we also lost in the video, was about revamping your job titles. So I absolutely love this statement of what would your clients or your residents call your job title if they described it by the impact that you had on their lives. I think that's just a lovely phrase to really have a good think about. And in the podcast, The Road to Outstanding, I have spoken to quite a few people recently who have changed the job titles of their team. They're calling them personal assistants or something else like that, that really adds a bit more professionalism to the job, to the role, and also just helps promote that feeling of purpose really within the team. So definitely a consideration to revamp your job titles. And the last point, which does pick up again on the video in a second, is about playing positive Tetris. And I took this idea from some research that I read actually, where a company or a university that was doing research was having people play Tetris for multiple hours per day. And it was for a particular study. And as a side sort of result, the people that were involved in the study found that they were going away and they were seeing Tetris shapes everywhere they looked, and they were almost trying to solve Tetris puzzles even when they weren't playing the game. So this is a bit of a metaphor really, for the fact that in care we're very much trained to spot the negative, to spot the problems, to spot the potential incidents, to spot the risks. And our minds, when we're working in a care environment, are almost tuned in to spot the negative. And my challenge really is to try to reverse that when it comes to the team and try to focus on the positive. I'm not saying don't pick up on the negative. All I'm saying is our mindset is quite naturally going to the negative all the time. So it's really important to give yourself a challenge to, at the end of a team meeting, look for something positive to say. When you've gone through a series and you've maybe done an audit and you've been looking for negative things, try and find something positive. And it's really about encouraging that. And it's obviously something that a lot of people working in care say that they don't receive enough recognition or enough positivity. And I think that this is a big reason why, because we're simply trained to spot the negative. The video will now pick the rest of this back up.
To see the positive. Now, who is a leader in this room? No one? Thank you. Shy hands going up there. So we've got some leaders in here. I'm going to argue that you're all leaders. If of nobody else, you're a leader of yourself. And actually, if we can train ourselves to stop focusing on the negative all the time and just find a couple of times a day or at the end of your staff meeting or at the end of your handover to find the positive and make a habit of finding the positive, it will become easier and easier to do. Habits create behaviour, behaviours create habits. So let's try and do some of that. So think of Tetris, let it remind you, and this is my those job titles. Go and talk to your clients about what they would call you and try and work that into the business, and play positive Tetris. So, if you would like any more information, and I'll obviously open up for questions if anybody has any questions, but if you would like any more information, or if you would like those slides, just jot your email address down for me,